Your grandmother got a friend request last week. She accepted it. You're reading this right now because of what happened next. The person wasn't who they said they were. And the target wasn't your grandmother. It was you. By the time you realize what's happening, they've already been inside your phone for 6 days. This isn't about hacking. It's about something you can't patch with a software update. Something that walks right past your passwords, your encryption, your two-factor authentication. Something that uses the one vulnerability you never thought to protect. The one sitting in her living room right now, scrolling through Facebook, liking photos of cats. She doesn't know what she did. She'll never know what she did. Because the person who contacted her spent 18 months becoming exactly the kind of friend she would trust. They studied her generation, her language, her memories. They built a person who didn't exist, gave the person a history, a family, a life. And then they waited for your grandmother to do what grandmothers do. Accept a friend request from someone who seemed nice. Someone who reminded her of the old neighborhood. Someone who just wanted to talk about recipes and grandchildren. That conversation started 3 weeks ago. The access began 6 days ago. And right now, in this moment, someone is looking at your photo library. Not stealing it, not downloading it, just looking. Learning who you meet with, where you go, what documents you photograph instead of saving, what you deleted but thought was gone forever. Your phone feels fine. It works normally. Battery life is the same. No suspicious apps appeared. No alerts from your security software. Because the threat isn't on your phone. It's coming through your grandmother's phone, through the family sharing network, through the iCloud account, through the trusted contact list you set up 2 years ago so she could see photos of the kids. You made it easier for her to stay connected. They made it easier for them to stay inside. You think your phone's security depends on your password, on two-factor authentication, on not clicking suspicious links. And you're right to think that, if the threat is coming at you directly. But what happens when the threat doesn't come at you at all? What happens when it goes around you entirely? Through someone who doesn't even understand what a phishing email is. Through someone who thinks the internet is a nice place where people make friends. Russian intelligence figured this out 20 years before you bought your first smartphone. They realized something most security experts still don't want to admit. The weakest point in your digital security isn't your device. It isn't your password. It isn't even you. It's the 72-year-old woman who still writes her passwords on sticky notes and calls you every time her iPad needs an update. It's your grandmother. And she just gave someone access to everything you thought was private, not because she's careless, not because she's stupid, but because she operates in a world where people are generally kind. Where a friend request means someone wants to be friends. Where a nice conversation is just a nice conversation. She doesn't think in terms of threat models and attack vectors. She thinks in terms of loneliness and connection. And that's exactly what makes her valuable. You've spent years building digital walls around yourself. Strong passwords, encrypted messages, VPNs, privacy settings. You don't click strange links. You verify sender addresses. You update your software. You did everything right, but you forgot that your security is only as strong as the weakest link in your network. And your grandmother is in your network. She's in your contacts. She's in your photo sharing. She's listed as a trusted family member on every service you use. Because of course she is. She's your grandmother. Why wouldn't you trust her? The FSB is counting on that logic. They're counting on you never considering her a vulnerability. They're counting on the fact that when you think about digital threats, you think about hackers and malware and phishing scams. You don't think about a 74-year-old woman who just wanted someone to talk to about her garden. The FSB doesn't start with your grandmother. They start with you. They build what's called a vulnerability map, not of your devices, of your relationships. They're looking for someone in your life who has 3 specific characteristics. 1. Trusts easily. 2. Has access to you, physically or emotionally. 3. Doesn't understand they're being used. Your grandmother checks all 3 boxes. So does your uncle, who still uses the same password for everything. So does your cousin, who posts every family gathering on Facebook with full location tags. But grandmothers are particularly valuable, and you're about to understand why. Before they ever send a friend request, they've already studied your grandmother for months. They know what church she goes to, what grocery store she shops at, what time she posts on social media. They know she comments on local news articles about the neighborhood changing. They know she shares recipes and inspirational quotes. They know she's been widowed for 7 years and her children don't visit enough. This isn't guesswork. This is data collection, public data, the kind anyone can access if they know where to look. Facebook profiles set to public. Nextdoor posts, online obituaries that list surviving family members, church directories, reunion pages, everything your grandmother ever shared, thinking it was harmless because she's not important enough for anyone to care. But she is important, not because of who she is, because of who she's connected to, you. And they know about you too. They know where you work, what your title is, who you're connected to on LinkedIn. They know you traveled to 3 different countries last year because your grandmother posted, "So proud of my grandson," with a photo of you at the airport. They know your address because she tagged you in a birthday post. They know your wife's name, your children's names, what school they go to, all from your grandmother's public social media. She thought she was just being a proud grandparent. She was building their targeting file. And once they have that map, once they understand the relationship network, they don't go after the hardest target. They go after the one who won't see them coming. The friend request comes from someone named Marina. She's 68, widow, lives in the same city your grandmother grew up in, loves gardening and classical music. The profile has photos going back 7 years, friends who comment in Russian, posts about grandchildren, birthday wishes from people with real profiles, comments on local community pages, shared memories about streets that don't exist anymore. It's completely real, except Marina doesn't exist. The profile was built over 18 months by a team whose only job is to create believable people. They don't just make fake accounts. They make fake lives. They study speech patterns, regional dialects, cultural references only someone from that generation would know. They learn how women in their late 60s talk about their health, their families, their disappointments. They understand what makes someone from that era feel seen, heard, understood. Marina's profile isn't random. It's engineered specifically for your grandmother. Same age range, same hometown, similar losses. Even the timing of the friend request is calculated. It comes on a Wednesday afternoon, the loneliest day of the week for elderly women living alone. Statistically proven. Your grandmother sees the request, looks at the profile, sees a familiar face, even though they've never met, sees the hometown, sees the mutual interest in gardening. She thinks, maybe we did know each other. Maybe we went to the same school. Memory gets fuzzy at that age, so she accepts. 3 days later, Marina sends a message. "I think we might have gone to the same school. Do you remember the old building on Maple Street before they tore it down?" Your grandmother does remember. And just like that, the conversation begins. It's not rushed. It's not suspicious. It's just two old women talking about a world that doesn't exist anymore. About how things were better back then. About how the neighborhood has changed. About how children today don't understand what it was like. Marina agrees with everything, validates everything, makes your grandmother feel heard in a way she hasn't felt in years. And over the next weeks, they talk every day about recipes, about grandchildren who don't call enough, about aching knees and doctors who don't listen. Normal things, comforting things, things that make your grandmother trust this person she's never actually met. They don't ask for anything immediately. That would be obvious. Instead, Marina and your grandmother talk about the old neighborhood, about recipes, about how children don't call enough anymore. Over weeks, Marina does something subtle. She teaches your grandmother to trust a specific behavior, sending photos through a messaging app that isn't WhatsApp or a message. "It's easier for me," Marina says, My phone is old. Your grandmother downloads it. It's a real app. Available in the App Store. Nothing suspicious. Thousands of positive reviews. A legitimate company behind it. Clean privacy policy. No red flags whatsoever. Except the version your grandmother downloaded has one extra line of code. One small addition that wasn't in the official release. It came through a link Marina sent. A link that looked like it went to the App Store. And technically it did. But it stopped somewhere else first. Somewhere that modified the installation file. Added that single line. Your grandmother never noticed the difference. Why would she? The app works perfectly. She sends Marina pictures of her garden. Marina sends back pictures of her cats. Everything is normal. Everything is safe except that one line of code is waiting. Waiting for something specific to happen. Waiting for your grandmother to do something she does all the time. Without thinking. Share a photo with you. Forward a message to a family member. Send a picture to the family group chat. The code doesn't activate when she uses the app with Marina. That would be traceable. It activates when she uses it with people in her trusted contact list. People whose devices are linked to hers through family sharing, through cloud services, through all the convenient features that make modern phones easy for elderly people to use. Features you set up for her. Features you thought were helping. And that code, that single line sitting dormant in an app that looks completely legitimate, is waiting for the moment when your grandmother's phone and your phone are talking to each other. When data is flowing between devices that trust each other. When the security systems aren't watching because why would they? It's just grandma sending a photo. It happens every week. Completely normal. Completely safe. Until it isn't. And that moment is coming. Because Marina is about to ask your grandmother for a favor. If you're still watching, you've already passed the first test. Most people click away when they realize the threat isn't direct. When they realize their firewall doesn't matter. When they understand that all their security measures, all their careful digital hygiene, all their awareness of phishing scams and malware, none of it protects them from this. But you're still here. You're still here because part of you knows this is real. Part of you is already thinking about your own grandmother, your own mother, your own elderly relatives who trust too easily and share too much. You're wondering if they've gotten any strange friend requests lately, if they've downloaded any apps you don't recognize, if they've been talking to anyone new online, and you're wondering if it's already too late. Here's what most people don't want to hear. If this method has been used against you, you probably won't know. There's no alert, no notification, no suspicious activity that trips your security software. Because the activity isn't suspicious. It's your grandmother sending you a photo. It's a family member sharing something in the group chat. It's normal behavior that happens every single day. The only difference is what's hidden inside the normal behavior. What's embedded in the metadata. What instructions are being passed between devices that trust each other. You could check right now. You could open your settings and look at what apps have access to your photos, your contacts, your location. You could see what devices are linked to your account, what family sharing networks you're part of. But here's the thing, even if you check, even if you look at every permission and every connection, you won't see it because it's not on your device. It's on your grandmother's device, sitting there quietly, watching, learning, waiting for the right moment to pass information along. And that moment might have already happened. It might be happening right now, while you're watching this, while your grandmother is in another room, scrolling through Facebook, responding to messages from her new friend Marina, who's been so nice to talk to lately, so kind, so understanding, so patient. Marina who doesn't exist. Marina who's been waiting for exactly this moment. The moment when your grandmother does what grandmothers do, try to help. For weeks into the friendship, Marina asks your grandmother for a favor. Not a big favor, a small one. The kind of favor you'd ask a friend without thinking twice. Marina's grandson is having a birthday. She wants to send him a photo, but her phone isn't cooperating. Could your grandmother forward it to him? Just this once. It's just a photo, a family picture, completely innocent. A grandmother and her grandson sitting at a kitchen table. Warm. Familiar. The kind of photo that makes you smile. Your grandmother forwards it to you with a little message. My new friend Marina wanted you to have this. Isn't she sweet? You open it. You smile at the photo. You send back a thumbs up emoji. And that's the moment. That's the exact moment everything changes. The photo contains something called X of metadata. Information embedded in every image file ever taken on a digital device. Normally is harmless. Timestamp, camera model, location data. The kind of information that tells you when and where a photo was taken. But this photo's metadata contains something else. Instructions. Specific instructions written in code that the average person would never see and would never know to look for. Instructions that communicate with the app your grandmother installed 3 weeks ago. The one that's been sitting dormant on her phone, waiting for exactly this moment. The moment when her device and your device exchange data. When information flowed between the phones that trust each other completely. When the security systems on both ends saw nothing suspicious. Because there was nothing suspicious to see. Just a grandmother forwarding a photo to her grandchild. Just a normal family moment. And because you're on the same iCloud network. Because you've shared photo albums. Because she's in your trusted contacts. Because you set all of this up yourself to make her life easier. The door just opened. Not with a bang. Not with any alert or warning or sign. It opened silently. The way the best operations always do. And somewhere in a building far away, a screen lit up. A notification appeared and an analyst leaned forward in their chair. Because the access they've been waiting 6 weeks for, the access that required 18 months of preparation, has finally arrived. The door is open and you have no idea. They're not stealing your data. Not yet. First, they're mapping it, learning your patterns. What time you unlock your phone in the morning. Which apps you open first. How long you spend on each one. Who you text most frequently. What you photograph but never send. What you type and then delete. They're building a behavioral profile, not just of your digital life, of your psychological life. Because behavior patterns reveal things that stolen data never could. They reveal your stress levels, your relationships, your decision-making process, your vulnerabilities, the things that keep you up at night, the things you're afraid of, the things you want, but haven't told anyone. And here's what makes this so effective. Your phone still works normally. Battery life is fine. No suspicious apps appeared in your app drawer. No weird pop-ups. No strange notifications. Your security software isn't alarmed because your security software is looking for threats. Coming from the outside. Looking for malware that arrived through a phishing link or an unauthorized download. It's not. Looking for information flowing through your grandmother's device, through the family sharing. Network through the trusted connection you establish yourself. The threat isn't on your phone. The access point isn't on your phone. It's on hers. Sitting inside an app she uses every day to send Marina pictures of her garden. And because everything flows through that connection, through the trusted bridge between the devices that love each other, there's nothing to detect, nothing to quarantine, nothing to delete. You could factory reset your phone right now, and it wouldn't matter. Because the access isn't installed on your phone. It's installed on your grandmother's. And your grandmother isn't going to factory reset her phone. She doesn't even know what that means. She just knows that Marina's app works well and Marina is a lovely friend who always responds so quickly and remembers everything she tells her, every detail, every complaint about her knee, every story about the grandchildren, every mention of where you're working now and who you've been spending time with and whether you've seemed stressed lately. Marina remembers all of it because Marina isn't remembering. Marina is recording. And the analyst on the other end is cataloging every detail, building a picture of you from the outside in, through the eyes of someone who loves you. This works because of something called transitive trust. It sounds complicated, but it isn't. It's actually something you understand instinctively. You trust your grandmother. Your phone trusts your grandmother's phone trusts Marina's instructions. That's the chain. 3 links. And the FSB only needed to compromise one of them. The weakest one. The one that didn't know it was a link in a security chain at all. Transitive trust is the reason your phone didn't raise an alarm. The reason your security software stayed silent. The reason no notification ever appeared. Because trust, once established, flows automatically through digital networks the same way it flows through human relationships. You vouch for someone, they vouch for someone else. And suddenly a stranger is standing in a room they were never invited into. This isn't a new concept. Intelligence agencies have understood transitive trust in human networks for decades. They've used it to infiltrate organizations, governments, military units. They would find the one person in a trusted circle who was vulnerable, compromise the person, and use their existing relationships to access everyone else. What changed is the technology. Because now those human trust networks are mirrored exactly in digital ones. Your cloud family sharing is a digital trust network. Your Google Photos shared album is a digital trust network. Your trusted contacts list is a digital trust network. And every single one of those networks has the same vulnerability that human networks have always had: the weakest link, the person who trusts too easily, the person who doesn't understand the implications of what they're sharing, the person who would never in a million years think of themselves as a security risk. And here's what makes this method so devastatingly effective. The FSB didn't have to break your encryption. They didn't have to guess your password. They didn't have to trick you into clicking a suspicious link. They didn't have to do anything that your security training ever warned you about. They just had to be patient enough to spend 18 months building a friendship, patient enough to wait 6 weeks for the right moment, patient enough to let your grandmother do all the work for them. Russian intelligence operations are built on timelines most people can't comprehend. They think in years, sometimes decades. And that patience is the weapon you cannot defend against. Here's what most people miss. You might not be the final target either. Think about that for a moment. All of this, the 18 months of profile building, the manufactured friendship, the dormant app, the metadata trigger, all of it might not even be about you. Maybe you're just the bridge, the next link in a chain that goes somewhere much more significant. Maybe they want your colleague who works in a government building. Maybe they want your friend who mentioned something about a defense contract over dinner 6 months ago. Maybe they want your spouse who has a security clearance they never talk about at home. The FSB thinks in networks, not individuals. They don't see you as a person. They see you as a node, a connection point that links to other connection points. And the value of a node isn't what it contains. It's what it connects to. So they move through you the same way they moved through your grandmother. Patiently, silently. Using the same transitive trust that got them into your phone to get them into the phones of everyone around you. And because the infection came through family, through love, through the most natural human connection there is, you'll never suspect it. You'll never look at a photo your grandmother forwarded and think, that's how they got in. You'll never look at the family sharing notification and think, that's the access point, because it's too innocent, too familiar, too normal. And Marina is still talking to your grandmother, still sending recipes, still asking about her knee, still remembering every detail about every conversation they've ever had. Your grandmother thinks she made a friend, a real one, the kind you don't find very often at 72 years old. Someone who listens, someone who cares, someone who always has time to talk. She doesn't know that Marina is reading your messages. She doesn't know that every time she mentions your name, an analyst writes something down. She doesn't know that her loneliness became a weapon, that her trust became a door, that her love for her grandchildren became the most effective intelligence gathering tool in the operation. And somewhere in a building in Moscow, a screen is still lit up. The analyst is still watching, still learning, still waiting for the next link in the chain to reveal itself. You can check your grandmother's friend list right now. You can call her tonight and ask if anyone new has reached out recently, if she's been talking to someone she met online, if she's downloaded any apps a new friend suggested, and maybe she'll say yes. Maybe she'll tell you about Marina, about how lovely she is, about how they've been talking every day for weeks now, about how Marina remembers everything and always has time to listen, and never makes her feel like a burden, and you'll feel something shift in your chest. A cold recognition, a slow understanding of what that means. But here's the thing about this method. By the time you ask, it's already too late to matter. The access was never meant to be permanent. They don't need to stay inside your phone indefinitely. They don't need a long-term installation. They just needed to be there long enough to understand you, long enough to map your patterns, long enough to identify the next link in the chain, long enough to learn what you're afraid of, and who you trust, and what you're hiding even from yourself. And understanding someone, truly understanding how they think, who they love, what they fear. That's not data you can delete. You can change your password. You can update your security settings. You can remove your grandmother from your family sharing network and feel terrible about it for weeks. But you can't unreveal what's already been seen. You can't take back the patterns that have already been mapped. You can't unteach an analyst everything they've learned about you through 6 weeks of silent observation. The information exists now, somewhere in a file with your name on it, or maybe not your name. Maybe just a number, a node in a network that's still being mapped, still being understood, still being followed from link to link to link. Your grandmother has 6 unread messages from Marina. She'll probably answer them tonight. She'll tell Marina about the grandchildren, about her knee, about how you called and seemed stressed lately. She'll say she's worried about you. Marina will say she understands completely. Marina will say she's sure everything will be fine. Marina will ask one small question, just a casual one, the kind you ask a friend when you're genuinely concerned, and your grandmother will answer it. Because that's what you do when someone cares about you. You answer their questions. You trust them. You let them in.